Art One-on-One with Mr. Burgher.
Welcome to another episode of Art One-on-One. I am your pod boss, Nichole Jordan, alongside your professional artist and master educator, Mr. Burgher.
Yay! What? I don't remember what I'm supposed to say at the beginning. There was a thing we were going to do.
Well, we're back at it again.
Well, we're back at it again.
That's what you're not supposed
I'm not. Oh, what was I supposed to say?
Something original, something meaningful.
This is going to be the greatest podcast of all blessed time. We're getting ready to embark on a journey here. I hope you folks are ready, because we're going to go full warp speed into the art world. And if you're not ready and prepared for this, then by golly, you're going to...
Pause it. Get focused and come back. Okay, I'm bringing you in. Thank you for that great introduction.
Thank you for that great introduction. So
I don't even know where to go from there.
Okay. Well, as we've talked about before, in my on my YouTube channel, Art 101 with Mr. Burgher, as opposed to Art One-on-One, the podcast, where we discuss one-on-one the art universe. There is a one of the things that I do on there is I make like little playlists.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got my long videos that are the Art 101 videos. I've got the medium-sized videos that are called the detail videos, and I've got the short videos that are called the shorties. And those are, YouTube shorts or TikToks or things like that. So they're available on TikTok and YouTube and all over social media. But one of the playlists that I create is called the top 11. And I figure, because it's like 101, 11.
Do you create that or does YouTube create that?
I create it.
Oh, okay.
I make the playlist. And every month I go in and modify the top 11. So I go and I research what are the top 11 videos that are available on the channel. And this month, it's the beginning-ish of the month. I wanted to report back, what the top 11 are right now.
Mm-hmm.
And the number 11 video is Dwayne Henson, followed by Sandy Skoglund. I did that on the surrealist photographer, Sandy Skoglund. Richard Serra. Camille Pizarro is in there. And again, we've talked about that before. This is a video that's 3-4 years old,
mm-hmm.
and it's still one of the most viewed videos that I've got. A brand new one on Roman toilets. I'm sure you're excited to watch that video.
I have not watched that video.
Doesn't surprise me. Klaus Oldenburg. Number 5 is Victor Vasserly. 4, Red Grooms Vermeer, which is a relatively new one, is the third top. Another, going back to if you go back to the end of the year, the top videos of the year, number 2, Sailor Jerry. Number 1, William de Kooning. Those are consistently at the top. And again, who knows, at the end of the year, my guess is that William de Kooning is going to probably be one of the most watched videos again of this year. I mean, based on that trend.
It's interesting.
But for 2 or 3 years in a row, it was the Pizarro one. And Victor Vasserly was right in the mix every year for, again, 2-3 years.
So is there any subject matter or similarities or between those that you think make them the popular ones?
Boy, I don't know. I'm sure there's something about them that makes them that way, but I really don't know. Maybe you should go in and examine those, because honestly, when I look at it, it's just maybe I'm just too close to it. I don't know. Or maybe the followers of the Art 101 Army. I don't know. This came to me. I don't know what they're called, but the Art 101, Art One-on-One, Art 101, whatever they are. The people that are subscribers or followers or whatever they are.
Yeah. Your tribe.
The tribe, the militia,
I think
the renegades, the Whatever.
Think of some Viking term, because that's more up your alley.
I don't know. I don't know.
What are a group of Vikings called?
I don't know Viking language. And I'd probably pronounce it wrong, and everybody'd be pissed off. You said it wrong. It's supposed to be Viking, not what you said, you stupid idiot.
That
But
does not sound like Vikings. That sounded like French at the end.
it was a little. They were the French Vikings. But yeah, anyway, the point is that those videos are out there, and I don't know what the connection is that makes one more traffic than the other than liking, sharing, subscribing, and interacting with the thing. So if you're watching and you're digging the stuff, interact with it. Push the like button, hit the thing, do the bells and the whistles and all that you want to do. I don't do bells, but all the other stuff you can do.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, let's jump into our first segment, which is Ask the Art Guides.
Well, it's technically our second segment, but okay. Ask the Art Guides, our longest running segment that we've ever had on this.
It's not the second segment.
Well, we were talking about the Art 10,
talking about
Pop
something.
11. That's kind of a segment.
Okay, so the Paul. So the card I pulled is Paul Gauguin.
The card that was pulled is on Paul Gauguin. Which one of the three comments are we going to discuss today? Oh, Pod Bossy Boss.
I am going to choose the Life, I think is what it is. Yes, the Life. And it says go far to go far.
Go far to go far.
So I don't know much about Paul Gauguin, as you can imagine.
Well,
but
I
do.
do
You think that? So knowing him, that's shocker. You do?
It's interesting though. Like right now, you're going to take my word for whatever I say. But yet there are other times where you're like, I'm going to Google it, and I'm going to...
He says I'm not going to pull up my phone and Google something if I'm questioning you.
That's true.
Okay.
But,
so knowing
but have you done that and I've been wrong? Yet has that happened?
I'm not sure I can answer that accurately.
What was the question?
The question is, what does that mean to you? To go far in conjunction with Paul Gauguin.
Paul Gauguin was from France. And Paul Gauguin was a douchebag. And, well, he was.
Is that the technical term?
Yeah.
Is that the artsy term?
That's the French term.
Okay.
That's how they pronounce it.
Okay.
So I don't know what the American English whatever is phrase for that is, but the French word is douchebag. Douchebag.
Okay.
And he was a stockbroker, banker type guy, and started picking up painting, and
so he's a contemporary artist then?
No.
No?
No. He is not contemporary. He was not even...
Did you say stockbroker and... I don't know.
Yeah.
Isn't that term fairly?
Nope.
No?
Nope. It's been... Stocks and banking have been around since money. And money is pretty old. Been around for a while. A few thousand years.
All right, you got me there. Keep going.
So, at any rate, Paul Gauguin did all kinds of different business-type jobs, ended up giving that up to pursue a career of a professional artist, left his wife and I think 5 kids to basically fend for themselves, as he just basically abandoned them, said, see ya, and basically painted and whored around France and Europe and hooked up with women and lived with Vincent van Gogh for a very short period of time and did this and did that and whatever. And one thing led to another, and he decides to travel to Tahiti. And in Tahiti, he created several paintings and so-called married, molested, had child brides that were barely teenagers, I think 12, 13, 14-year-old girls that he had. Again, the word that's used is married, but I don't know if basically he was a pedophile. And yeah, and so anyway, he went far in his art career by traveling a long distance to Tahiti, creating these artworks, and then bringing them back. This is, again, toward the end of his career. He had brought all of these items back to the uh, French part of, to his art dealers and collectors and whatnot, and eventually decided to go back to Tahiti, where he did more of the same, spreading disease and illness and whatever. And he was inciting revolts against the Tahitian government, and the people and the government didn't like it. They were sick of his ways and his. He had really bad eczema too. And so he was basically living in a hut, uh, being tortured by eczema all over his body, and people were very upset by the fact that he was trying to seduce these young girls and, again, spreading disease and bullshit. And they were coming to put him in jail. He had a heart attack and died.
But the go far to go far, he basically
The
traveled and
go far
disappeared and then brought it back.
the go far part is his going to Tahiti to go far in his thing, but basically he was exploiting these natives of Tahiti to his own so-called benefit. He was exploiting these girls as a whatever to his perversions and pedophilic.
Which you expand
pedophilia,
on in another video, right? That was one of your videos that you did, which I have watched, The Dark Side of Gauguin.
And I touch on a lot of that. I'm yet to do a full video, just like a full length Art 101 type video on Gauguin. That is in the works. That is on the agenda this year. So that should be coming. Who knows when? But
Is that what you mainly talk about in that video?
which one?
The Dark Side of Gauguin.
I talk about the bad shit. Why? Yeah.
Just
Like I talk about, like, it basically in those dark side videos. I think there's, I don't know, 10 or 11 little ones, and there's one long one. But basically, these are known artists
famous
that
artists.
are famous and well known, and
They're douchebags.
they're in there, yeah, and they're total bastards. Moose Man, he came up with I have it written down somewhere. He came up with a really cool like title, and I think I might make a whole series of them. And I think I'm gonna steal Moose Man's idea. But
Well, did he give you that idea? It's
I asked him.
if he gave it to you.
I asked him if I could use it, and he said yes.
So you're going to use it as inspiration, not steal it from him.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, so my rendition of "You Got to Go Far to Go Far," like, that's totally against what I think. Like, maybe it's because I don't get to travel.
The whole idea of go far to go far is against what you think?
Is against what I believe. Yeah.
What do you mean?
I mean, I don't think you have to go far to go far. We talk about this in my world, my teaching, coaching, whatever world, that, like, if you don't, but everybody thinks, oh, I have to go to this retreat that's thousands of miles away for a week-long getaway to have these huge transformations, or I got to go to these ayahuasca, which I know you're going to comment on, that you have no idea what that is, but we have to go to these ayahuasca ceremonies. We have to go to these ayahuasca ceremonies and do these drugs, these intense drugs, to have these intense transformations. And I am not a big proponent in that. I think everybody is different, but I don't think you have to go far to go far. I think that you can make small changes in your everyday life. And he could have, like, for him, that worked. For Gauguin, that worked. But there's other artists that obviously can have inspiration right in front of them. And that makes them successful. And the same in my spiritual world and nutrition world. Like, there are small things that you can do that will change your life drastically. And so I'm kind of like the opposite of,
well,
you gotta go far to go far.
I think our
I
world.
don't think that's true.
I think our world has evolved though, in that regard. Like it used to be, in order to really make it big in a certain scene. So again, we're talking about art. So in order to make it big in art, well, you've got to go to New York, you've got to go to LA, you got to go to Chicago, you got to go to a major city.
You gotta take
Otherwise,
risks.
you're out. If you're not and that's why people look down on Grant Wood. They said, why in the world are you making art in Iowa? You should be in Chicago, you should be in New York, you should be somewhere where there's a major art hub where you can promote and create your stuff.
Did he go there and come back, Grant Wood?
Grant Wood,
We talked about
yeah,
this
I
when we
mean,
were in Iowa City.
he was in and out of Chicago. He was in and out. I mean, he dabbled in New York. He was in France and Germany and various. I mean, he was in a lot of art hubs around the world. But he always came back to Iowa City. He always came back to teach and work at the University of Iowa. He always came back to be in Cedar Rapids, which is where he was comfortable. He was comfortable being there as opposed to being, in somewhere else.
Right.
And I think that, in the 1930s, that's what you had to do to make it. And so Grant Wood was very much outside the norm in that regard. A lot of the big artists like Jackson Pollock or any major artist that you take a look at, they were working within the confines of, I've got to go to a major city so that I've got people that can show the work, who will appreciate the work, who will, on and on.
Yeah.
But the simple fact of the matter is, in our world today, we have the internet. And there's a famous artist, musician named Chuck D. I don't know. He's in a rap group called Public Enemy.
Okay.
With Flavor Flav. Yeah, boy. You remember Flavor Flav?
I mean, I know the name, but
Okay. Well, I was a big Public Enemy fan. You might not know this or believe this, but it's a fact. I was a huge Public Enemy fan.
okay.
Apocalypse 91 was one of my favorite albums. Fear of a Black Planet, Takes the Nations of Millions, all of the albums. Had them all on cassette tape, had them on, anyway, big Public Enemy fan. So I was a big Public Enemy Chuck D fan. And Chuck D recently came out and was talking about how he's making artwork and how artwork is important and things like that. And one of the things that he actually talks about is the fact that, it used to be in the world you had to go to these major areas to get your artwork out. You had to have a major gallery show. But now with the internet, with social media, we can put our stuff out there and somebody's going to say, hey, I want that art. I want to buy that. And so the market of artwork that was very specific to New York or Chicago or LA or Dallas or wherever has exploded. So now I can live in my little town and I can put it out there to people and I can still have that gallery show and I can still have this and that, but I don't necessarily have to live there or be there all the time. I can live a little bit of a recluse. I can be a little bit removed from it. I don't have to be in the mix all the time to be able to live that art lifestyle. I can basically do this from anywhere, and I think that that's true. I think that's a really great thing about the world and how the world has evolved to allow artists in to this, you know, conversation without necessarily relocating into the major city or relocating away from where they're comfortable and making their art and doing their thing successfully.
And I think that's not only true for artists, that's obviously true for other, uh, what's the word I'm looking for?
Well, I think
Other,
all branches of art
well, I'm saying
and
not just artists, other, oh my God,
worlds, other
types of
worlds,
professions.
other worlds.
Other types of professions, it's the same thing. Like I tell you, that's why I want to have like certain jobs because I can do them from anywhere and I can reach people from anywhere. And that's good. We can use that for good, or it also can be
Welcome to
used
the dark side.
for bad. And, there's a lot of stuff out there that kids
Yes.
shouldn't have access to.
No access. Yoda says no.
You're better at Yoda than you are Viking, that's for sure.
Welcome. I do a pretty good Emperor. Welcome to the dark side.
You need to be one of those voiceover people, like, and get paid to do that.
The thing is, like, I think it's honestly, maybe it's a self-conscious sort of thing, but being dyslexic, it's really, 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 really hard for me to, like, if I was to look at your page and to like say, okay, read that now, like I have to read it and memorize it and know exactly what I'm going to say, which is why like my Art 101 videos, like I crank them out like every week, boom, boom, boom. But it takes a shite load of time to make each one because like I'll say it and then I'll have to say it again. I'll have to say it like,
oh, believe me, I know because I listened to
and
it
so
in the other room.
and so I mean I have to do the voiceover and all of the work that's involved. It takes a lot of time just from the simple fact that like my older videos, it's very, this is how I talk. This is how I talk. But then, like as I read it, I try to put the pizzazz into it. Like, and so for me, just having a conversation, I think it's a better reflection of what I know than the videos. This is a better.
I don't think it's a better reflection. I think you do a great job, but people don't understand the work that goes into it and the time that goes into it because of your dyslexia. And here you don't have to worry about that. But
and the more I think about it, the more honest to God, I'm pretty sure I'm related to Kevin Nash. You know, the Kliq This podcast.
I know the Kliq This podcast, but why do you think you're
big number one, like we're both amazing athletes.
I wouldn't know if you're an amazing athlete. Clearly you're not with like basketball or football or with your hands. You are embarrassingly terrible.
Well, I think that a lot of that is my childhood, to be honest with you. And I'm not trying to place blame on anybody, but I do think that a lot of that is because of, and we've talked about this before, like my dad was, he was a school teacher, but also had a side job and a family business. And so
he did other things with you besides throw a ball.
And yeah, so we did other things. We didn't play baseball. I never played baseball organized in my life. As a matter of fact, I never played baseball unorganized in my life. I didn't touch a football until I was in 7th grade. I didn't really have balls and bats and all of those things. Not like that, you pervert. And because I had those.
I got you sidetracked.
But the fact of the matter is that I didn't really have those kinds of sports experiences. The only real sports experience that I ever had growing up was at night. My dad would lay on the floor and I'd want to wrestle with him. And so wrestling and roughhousing with my dad was natural. And so that.
How does that make you like Kevin Nash? Okay, so there's one, you're amazing athletes. What's the other?
Well, we both are wrestlers.
Okay.
Okay, but he's a
little bit more of a popular and better wrestler than you are, but okay.
Well, he's a professional. He was a basketball player. He was a college basketball player that became a wrestler.
Okay.
I was a college wrestler that became an art teacher. He, in college, studied art. He was an art major. I was also, believe it or not, an art major. He is dyslexic and I am dyslexic.
Ah.
There's a lot of similarities between Mr. Kevin Nash and myself, which, and again, politically, we think a lot alike. We both think that it's bullshit that Little Caesars calls the Detroit style pizza like a square pizza is the Detroit style pizza.
I did like when he talked about the Pollock, in my favorite movie, The Accountant.
The Accountant.
The other day on this podcast.
And for me, and again, this is this is just my own fantasy. So don't say I'm
Like
wrong.
a weirdo. Okay.
Don't say I'm wrong.
Why?
Just shut up when I say this. I think that Jackson. I think Jackson Paul. I think that Kevin Nash listened to this podcast. I think that he watches this. I don't need him to comment. I don't need him to any of that. But I think that Kevin Nash watches my podcast because we talked about the accountant the week before he brought it up on his thing, and he brought it up when I asked him a question on his podcast about art and investing money in art. So you can go back to Kevin Nash's podcast where I oftentimes will like to answer or ask questions of him that he will occasionally answer, and his most
and every time it lights him up.
It does. I love it every time.
He's on there.
It's like anyway.
It's like opening presents on Christmas
It
Day.
is. It really is. It's like my birthday and Christmas and everything just wrapped up in one. Kevin Nash heard my name and he answered my question, which is completely idiotic, but it's the truth. And we brought up the accountant. We talked about Ben Affleck. We talked about that movie. The next week, he brings it up in his podcast. Is that potentially coincidental?
Maybe.
No. The answer is no. He was listening to this podcast, and that's where he got it from. So,
I have totally lost me, like where this conversation came from.
It doesn't matter.
Well, it does.
Well, you know what? He went a long way to go far. He went far to go far. He traveled the world, and look how far he's gone. But at the same time, in the world today, as an artist, you don't have to go far to go far. So
in any
things have
in any type of
things have evolved.
Professional job. I mean, it's just this. It's the same thing. Like there's one video or one right person that watches something, and you can go big in a heartbeat, and it happens all the time.
It happens all the time, and you never know when it's going to happen. Speaking of Kevin Nash, one of the great things about his answer was that I said, go back and watch the Kevin Nash podcast. You
need to link it, obviously.
I'll put a link below. Yes. But anyway, he in his response, I asked him, would you want to invest in art? And he said no. And there were several reasons. Number one, it's millions and millions of dollars. But even to buy like a entry level artwork, like low level artwork
of a famous artist,
like a Jackson Pollock, or they brought up Basquiat, which was really good. I wish I would have suggested that. Like I kicked myself. Yeah. Why did I not?
Oh my God! Did you just move on?
But anyway, he said that the reason that he wouldn't is because he lives in Florida. He's right there on the water with the Florida and the water and the hurricanes, and he wouldn't want to have the artwork destroyed being in his house or wherever.
Which that's really, I mean, on the fly, that's a quick. I wouldn't have thought of that.
Yeah. Well, but he lives it. I mean, every year or two, he's talking about how he's dealing with the bullshit of being on the water and the whole.
Speaking of that, in your video that I journeyed into the archives to find, it was talking about, one of the artists was talking about how God's emotions towards humanity is what his inspiration was from his, or in some of his artworks. Do you remember who that was?
No.
You don't remember the artist that used that? He had like scenes that like had storms in them, and he was saying that was God's emotions coming across to the world.
J.M.W. Turner.
Yes, that's who it was. I think it was who it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't remember that from that video? Although, I mean, it was, 3 years ago?
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I don't remember everything I've ever said.
You kind of do, though.
Every quote I've ever quoted.
No, but
it sounds like a J.M.W. Turner type thing.
I believe it is.
But I don't know.
Because there's like a ship and there's lightning and...
there's one called the Slave Ship. There's no lightning, but there's definitely like rough water and storm coming.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that's who it was. I think you're right. But two things that makes me think of in that video, like...
What video?
The Journey into the Archives video.
Well, you haven't talked about the Journey into the Archives video.
It was artists with an apostrophe S. Sorry. It was artists influenced by water. That was the archive, or that was the journey into the archive. And
Okay, let's just recap this.
okay,
I'm talking about Kevin Nash, and I'm talking about Florida and
yes,
why he wouldn't buy art. You jump into
because of
JM.
hurricanes, floods, things like that.
Correct.
And you never get my transitions.
And because
that's what is in that video.
But you never
like,
you never fucking brought up a video. I'm talking about Kevin Nash. You're talking about JMW Turner, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, that's the video.
I said,
what video were you talking about? The Journey into the Archives video. What? I didn't know we were talking about a Journey to the Archives video.
Yes,
we were talking about fucking Kevin goddamn Nash.
I did say it reminds me of the Journey into the Archives video because...
What? Again, you never even talked about it. This is like
we can get there, you know that?
This is like the episode of The Office where Creed becomes the office manager, and he's like talking to himself in the conference room, and Jim is talking to himself like, he never called a meeting. You never called a meeting. You never.
You never let me get there. You never.
Because you don't walk through the door or announce, "Hey, everybody, this is what we're doing now."
All right. Hey, everybody. The video I watched in Journey into the Archives was called "Artists Influenced by Water," and the reason why Kevin Nash and his talking about floods and hurricanes, whatever he was talking about that could potentially destroy his art, made me think of the JMW Turner pieces that Mr. Burgher had in that video, because it was talking about God's emotions being portrayed in those. And where I was going with that, if you would have let me continue, is like, I think about that a lot nowadays. And you're probably going to think I'm a little bit crazy.
I already do.
Okay. And rightfully so. But there's like so much going on as far as like hurricanes and fires and mudslides and like
catastrophe about.
Well, and look at the shit that we're doing to our earth. Yeah. Like, and to me, that's like God's emotions coming through and saying, okay, enough of this bullshit that you're doing to my earth. Like, you need to clean shit up. You know, like, that's what it makes me think of.
And I do think that we as a human race do more damage to the earth than any other. You know, you can say, well, look at the cattle and how much they fart and they put the methane into. Yeah, well, you know what? We build skyscrapers and we inseminate these cows to be populated the way that they are. They didn't. Everything was pretty cool when there was small time farm doing their thing, and but long story short, yeah, I think that we do a lot to damage the earth, and hopefully, as a human race, we can say, okay, we've messed things up. Let's fix it.
I do think that makes me like one thing positive that came out of COVID, I think, is the world, you know, pretty much shut down, right, for how many days, and they couldn't realize how much like that impacted the pollution in the air, and that like how quickly it turned the tide on.
It came back.
Yeah, which like I just thought that was really interesting. Like, if we would choose to make better decisions, I think we could easily turn things around. But like right now, we are just destroying.
Well, and you've probably, I don't know, maybe you have, maybe you haven't, but have you seen those like how quickly, like if there was a city and nobody went into that city, like within so many years, the skyscrapers would fall down, and within so many years, plants and trees and stuff would be growing out of the sidewalks and out of the roads, and within so many years, like basically the earth would
kind of rebirth itself there.
Yeah, it would take over, and nature would basically bring everything back
the
to
earth knows what to do.
Yeah, to its original point.
Where did you watch this at?
I've just seen videos on that.
That's interesting. I've never seen those videos.
But yeah, there's different people that have talked about, like, within X number of years, like, I've watched different videos on like Chernobyl and these like human catastrophes where a major event takes place and cities have been shut down or big metropolitan areas have been stopped or whatever. Or there's that movie with Will Smith, which is kind of an unpopular guy to bring up, but was it I Am Legend?
Legend, yeah, I am.
Where it's like this post-apocalyptic thing, and remove the zombies and all of the other sci-fi stuff that goes on in the movie. Just the city's ability to the vines are going to grow up the buildings and the grass is going to grow in the cracks and the dirt is going to come back over the sidewalk and eventually the earth is going to reclaim itself. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I don't like that movie at all, but
I'm not
like
surprised. I'm not surprised you don't like that movie because you don't like good movies. But
all right, so focusing back on my journey into the archive video.
Oh yeah,
that I remember that being one of the original videos that I really, really liked of yours. I think just because the element of water is one of my favorite things. Like I love water. Being by water just totally lights me.
How many did I talk about? 11 artists? Usually I do, but I
think it was 10 or 11 artists.
I don't remember.
And it was interestingly like I think it's a mixture of popular and like very like one that I like was Esther Roy.
Esther Roy, yeah, she's very contemporary. Esther, and she's
I love her rocks.
And she's colored pencils and like just, and again, I'm a rock dork, and that's just how I am, and my kids are, and biologically, I'm just programmed to be a rock hound. And
I know this.
What?
No. What do you mean you're a rock dork? Like I love stones and crystals and things like that. What do you mean you're a rock dork? This is new information to me.
I've collected rocks for literally my whole life.
Where are these rocks at?
That big storage building that we rent?
Yeah, but I moved things into there with you, and I don't remember rocks.
There are big planters that are filled with rocks. I've got agates, and I've got rocks that I've collected from Africa, rocks that I've collected from Europe, we'll say. I've got rocks that I've collected from...
Did you get those here?
I put them in my suitcase.
Okay.
I don't know if that's...
This about you.
I don't know if that's legal or not, but I've got rocks from South Dakota. I got rocks from Canada. I've got rocks from just about every place that I visited. I had collected a rock or two from, and I love rocks.
You need to have a rock garden eventually.
And my mom, my adoptive mom, loves rocks. My biological mom loves rocks. I mean, I've just always had rocks and rock gardens and rock beds and rock walls. I've made all kinds of rock type things.
So besides Esther Roy
and Esther Roy's rocks are
beautiful.
She's able to render them.
Are those expensive?
I don't know.
It's a good Christmas present, birthday present idea.
I mean, to buy an original, it'd be, maybe a print. I don't know. I've never honestly looked into it, but she's definitely an artist that I would invest in.
So her, JMW Turner,
Hokusai, his The Wave.
I love The Wave.
What else?
I don't know the other ones. Those are the ones I remember from the video.
Didn't you write them down?
Oh, I'm not going to write down all 11 of them.
Well, Jesus. That's the whole point.
Well,
who is your favorite of all of them?
Probably Esther Roy.
Okay.
Who's your favorite?
I don't remember all of them. You watched the
video.
The
other ones are kind of darker. That's why I don't really remember. They're like...
I'm sure that if I had...
someone that used art as... Dali was one of them.
Salvador Dali was in there.
Art as an actual... what do I want to say? Like the element. It wasn't picture. They did fountains and... Who was that?
Don Lorenzo Bernini? He did fountains in Rome?
I don't know.
Well, gee.
All right. I'm breaking out the phone.
If Bernini would be up there. I like Salvador Dali.
Dali was in there.
The one
with the clock. That was Dali, right?
Yeah.
But he has water in
Then
there.
there was
There's another lady in there. There's another woman artist.
Woman artist. It's kind of chauvinistic.
Water. What?
Kind of
It's chauvinistic.
Because you're saying woman artist, like you're a real good woman painter. Yeah, well, it's kind of just a douchey thing to say.
Oh my gosh, it's not. If it was in a negative sense, I would agree with you.
But to me, that's a negative. I think that's kind of a negative thing to say.
Okay, but that's because of your perception, which means that's on you, not anybody else.
No.
Yes.
I think most people would agree with me that that's kind of a negative thing to say.
Okay, so let's look at this.
Oh my gosh, at the beginning of it is Scott Hall and Kevin Nash.
Okay, here is the artist.
Yeah, that's Jim. That's him.
Who? Bernini?
Yeah.
For what's his name?
Bernini. If I was to put I don't know, Bernini would be up there, but I can't. In all good consciousness, I can't pick a favorite.
You never can. I think you should do a video on like all of the elements. I don't know what the term is for it, but like earth, water, fire, air.
Elements. And I've done water.
I know, but I'm saying you should do like a series on the different elements. I think that'd be cool.
Okay, that's something to. I mean, I'm trying to interject the idea of the phases of art, the styles of art, so I'm
time periods,
kind of time periods, phases, the groups, that sort of thing. I'm trying to interject some more of those things in. I'm looking at the Impressionists because that's what the public has asked for. And now you're asking for the elements video.
You have a whole year to plan. You could do the longer video on like, these are the different elements. Air, wind.
Air, wind, and fire.
Wind, air, fire, water.
Fireball.
Earth? What are... Now I'm like...
Fuck if I know. This is your wheelhouse, not mine.
Air, fire, water, earth. Oh my god.
Earth, wind, fire. Thunderbolts!
Yes, the 4 Greek elements: fire, air, earth, and water.
Fire,
and I think it'd be
air,
cool to do a long video
and water.
And then break it down, and you could just kind of redo your water one, but then do the other.
I don't have time to redo the water one.
Okay, well, you could bring that in, but then do different artists that brought in.
Honestly, what I think, if I was going to do it, I would do it the opposite way. I would do each of the elements and then say, all right, here's all of the elements.
Can you think of, right offhand, like artists that really brought fire into there? Water is easy, I think.
I can think of a couple.
What about air?
Air's a little bit more tricky, but I can think of a couple. Just off the top of my head. Earth, I mean, it's easy.
Off the top of your what?
Off the top of my head. Did I say air? I don't know.
Airhead.
Yes, I had air in my brain.
Yes.
Like a leaky gas.
I think that'd be great.
So, I got all kinds.
Lots of great ideas.
Golly, you are an idea machine.
I know.
And honestly, a lot of those ideas wouldn't come about if we weren't having this conversation. So, yes. Kudos to you.
Thanks, honey. Okay, so that wraps up the things that I wanted to talk about today. So thank you for watching today. We appreciate the likes, the shares, the subscribes, and we will see you next time.
Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again soon, unless you stop subscribing because of this shit show.